Today we're going to address this weedy mess behind me. All of these vines that you see are sweet potato vines. I started the slips in a window in my kitchen on February 24th, and I planted somewhere between 12 and 20, I can't remember the actual amount, slips in a single row out here in May. They are not frost tolerant. They're usually dug in the fall. I think that ours are ready. They look like they're yellowing a little bit, and the ground is cracking where the sweet potatoes are hopefully growing under the ground. And they had flowers here a couple weeks ago, really pretty purple flowers that reminded me of morning glories. So I hope that they're ready. Something that I've already decided that I won't do next year, even without digging the potatoes, is planting them where I have planted other winter squash, other squash vining plants. I planted some butternut and some spaghetti squash in around the sweet potatoes in a separate row, but of course they grew together and it's a viney mess. The spaghetti squash, I think some vine borers got to them. Their vines turned to mush, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to save any of the spaghetti squash, if they will actually, if they're edible, I'm not sure. It looks like maybe a little mildew got to them. Their vines are mushy, so I went ahead and just pulled them. When you cut a squash, pumpkins included, you want to leave a couple inches of the stem, less chance for mold, less chance for ruined fruit. If they're cured properly, a winter squash, the name means that it will last all winter. If they're cured properly, they'll last for months. I had some that I grew last year that I pulled up in the fall, and I still had them up to a month or so ago. So that they really do last a long time. The spaghetti squash, I'm gonna stick them in my storeroom and try to cure them anyways. I don't know if they'll make it or not. The butternuts aren't quite ready. They're tan, but they're not the deep, creamy tan that you want them to be. So I'm hoping when I'm pulling the sweet potato vines, I don't mess up my butternut squash plant and lose those. But before I get started on all of that mess, I've got to pick all of the tomatoes. There's a bunch of them. I am honestly so amazed at how my tomatoes still look. I feel like the song Staying Alive should be inserted here though. I feel like my plants are screaming it. There's bug damage. Some disease. But they're still giving. The one thing that was different this year that I did different intentionally is that I intentionally planted these where there would be part shade. I would really consider it part shade because they are shaded quite a bit of the day by the smaller trees over here in the woods. I intentionally planted them in part shade, just wanting to see what the difference would be. I don't know if that is why my plants are still doing so good or not, but that's the only thing I did different.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
I'm really not sure what my approach is going to be or should be here. But my row of sweet potatoes is here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along and I'm going to snip about a foot up the vine if I can, at least a few inches, several inches up each vine where it enters the dirt, and try to pull as much of the vine to the side as I can get. I think that's where I'm going to start. Okay, I had to enlist some reinforcements, and then after that we got it done quickly. I don't think we did too bad. We had 10 slips in total, and we got 15 pounds of sweet potatoes. Some of them are really good size. There's a little bit of bug damage on them, but not too bad. I'm going to try to brush some of the dirt off the best that I can. And then you want to store them somewhere for around 2 weeks that is relatively warm, between 80 and 85, and pretty high humidity. So since we're still in the 80s here, I think I'm going to store them in my storeroom that's outside. It's not heated or cooled, it's just what the air is outside, maybe a little bit cooler. And the humidity's probably still pretty high in there because it's Arkansas and we have high humidity. So that's probably what I'm going to do with them for about 2 weeks. Let them cure that way and develop their sweetness. I don't think we did too bad. I've never grown sweet potatoes before. This was a first for me. We don't eat a lot of sweet potatoes, mainly around the holidays. But I'm looking forward to having these. That'll probably meet our sweet potato needs for the year.
Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be.